question there, your time in CWC, how was it? I suppose I can't answer that question, but preface it by saying that in my experience it was a little bit different, because I've actually been in Clongowes on 3 different occasions. So there from 1971 to 77 as a student, and then having joined the Jesuits, I was back there from 81 to 83 as a scholastic. And then for my third and final coming, I was there from 1980 until last year, 2021. So in total, 39 years, a long time. But I presume your question is more for when I arrived first as a student, 12 and a half years of age, came from Tullamore. I suppose in one sense it was slightly easier for me in that one of my brothers had finished, and I already had a brother who was in higher line at that stage. So for some that was a good thing, for others not so good. But you knew somebody. I'd been in the school before. I knew the physical layout. I have to be honest, it was still tough. I didn't take to it initially, and I do remember having some conversations with my dad. It was a long drive from Tullamore up to Clane. And he said, hang in there. He said, if you don't like it at Christmas, I'll pull you out. And that was the deal that he and I made. And then, lo and behold, duck to water, took off, made some great mates, and have remained great mates with them, for the remainder of my life to date. It's not always easy. I suppose having worked there for so long, I would be very aware how some boys find it very difficult, and there's even some boys for it just doesn't work through no fault of their own. And again, in my role as a third line prefect, when I worked there, I would have said, Mr. and Mrs. Ryan, whoever it is, look, it's not working for Johnny. You're best take him home. But my own time there, happy memories. Played rugby, was involved. The academics were a challenge, no doubt about that. I wasn't a straight A student, despite the best efforts of many, many good teachers trying to bait it into me. But I did enjoy it. And we had lots of, my resounding memory will be happy times. And then, as I say, having worked there, I'd be aware that it's not always happy for every child. But there was lots of things to do, and there was lots of stuff going on. There was the Hobbies Club, and there was the Space Age Quiz, and a guy called Tony Crabtree ran so many of those, and lots of good memories. You got to know the staff there, Mrs. Millie, who was head of housekeeping, Miss Smith in the book room. Tony Crabtree moved into the book room then as well, and there were just so many characters around the place, as well as Jesuits, young and old. John O'Keefe was our prefect. He got the name Gestapo, but it was tough, and I certainly realise that now, because having gone back and worked there, that for him it was a very, very tough job, in charge of 2 year groups. Pretty much on his own, in a time when it was predominantly all run by Jesuits and Jesuit scholastics. Lay teachers were only coming into the teaching role, and then subsequently into the prefecting, housemastering role.
He was also very young.
Also very young, yes. He would have.
By his own admission, he said he was never qualified
Yeah.
to be minding so many kids at that age. He's very inexperienced.
Yeah. And indeed, I mean, I left in 77, and then I found myself back there 4 years later, so as third line prefect. And in those days, there were 3 prefects. So I was in third line, Percy Winder was in lower line, and Michael Shield was in higher line. And you were in charge of 2 year groups. So it doesn't matter what degree you did in whatever, childminding, psychology, whatever, nothing could prepare you for that. And yet you're taking on the responsibility of guiding somebody's child. Mum and dad come in, they drop the child off at 12 and a half, 13 years of age, very impressionable age, and put them in your care. So a huge responsibility, but not that it weighed heavy. I mean, it was good fun. I was young, you had lots of energy. It certainly is a job that you do need lots of energy for, that you can just roll with it and bounce with it. And I think having been there as a student, it certainly it gave me a head start. Because I could look at a child and say, look, you're thinking about doing something silly, don't do it, and you knew the places to go if you wanted to find a kid, and you also knew the places to go, if you didn't want to find a kid. So it was happy times. So I did 2 years there, 81 to 83, as a scholastic, and then continued on my merry way, and ended up back there in 1990. Again, that year I was fifth year prefect, then moved to lower line, and then back to third line. So in those years we swapped around a little bit, different line groups. But lots of things have changed, because they were now predominantly prefects were lay people, and it was a different regime as it is now today. There's only 5 in the community as it is, and none of those involved directly with prefecting. But yeah, no, happy memories and no regrets, I have to say. Your second question, Rossa, what did it give me for life? The easiest way to sum that up, I think, would be a set of values. That's what I'm left with, a set of values that have stayed with me, and I suppose I probably explored those a bit more than the ordinary Joe Soap, because I was in the Jesuits for quite some time, and did a lot of reflection on that and what that meant. So, that idea of a man for others, and what is that, and how does that impinge on your daily life. And I think even today, at my ripe old age, that young age, that it does. How you interact with people, how you are open to people, how you see them, how you listen to them, and don't make judgments. I mean, there for the grace of God go any one of us, myself included. The school has been very, very good to me. Worked there, enjoyed it enormously. And was happy to retire when I did. You miss the boys, you miss the crack, you miss all that banter. The students are so good at keeping you honest that they will see through you in a second if you try to lie to them. You never lie to a child. And that was good for me with my own kids. I'm fortunate that my wife Anne is also a teacher in another school. And again, that's one of the things that you come away with, So what did it give me? It gave me a set of values, knowing right from wrong, how to treat people, how to, I think, be compassionate, how to listen. Too often we want to talk, so this exercise that I'm doing now is interesting. I'm quite happy to sit and listen to other people and hear them give their story, and those stay with you, very, very definitely. I mean, even at the last union dinner, that fundraising event for Cuba, that there are Clongonians that are on hard times, and how we can reach out and help them. But not just Clongonians, anybody. It can be your neighbour next door, and if you can carry that with you in your day-to-day dealings and meetings with people, then that's what's given you. That's what it has given me. That you're. I'd like to think that you're half decent. Not everybody would agree with that, I understand, but that's okay. And for me, I suppose the fruit of that is when I meet students afterwards and they genuinely want to engage with you. And that's been a real plus, a real privilege, that because the boys are there for 6 years, you have them at a very influential stage in their lives, and you're trying to inculcate and sow those seeds of right and wrong, men for others, and what does that mean in your day-to-day life, whether you are the local postman or you're the local doctor or whatever you're doing, that there is a place for those values to come true and shine through for you. Yeah, no, absolutely. So the first day on your arrival, I mean, as I referenced earlier, yeah, it was daunting. I mean, make no mistake about it. You're arriving into this castle, and this building built in 1929 of cold cut stone that weeps rain, and yeah, that was a leveler. You weren't in your own little nice warm bedroom at home with a hot water bottle, and but very quickly you learn to say hello to people and to start making friends and to, just rub shoulders with people. Some of the boys come in and they know one or two others, and that can be a help, no doubt about it. And having worked there, it can also be a little bit of a hindrance, because you don't want those 3 or 4 guys just to cling together and not. But my own experience, yeah, you tread it carefully. I mean, in those days, as a boy in rudiments in third line, you didn't mix with higher line. It's a different vibe there now, a totally different vibe, much more positive, much better vibe. But you didn't talk to those guys, and if you saw them coming, you didn't make eye contact. You walked the other side of the corridor, or you turned around and walked back. That was part of it. But then quickly our own group sort of formed, and I think we felt comfortable, because you were literally there, sleeping in a queue beside the other guy. You were having your meals, you were in class, you were in study, you were out at games, training, playing matches, and you really were looking out for each other. But it was a shock. Maybe that's a bit too strong, but it was as I say, 12 and a half, you were adjusting to a new way of life, very definitely. And then the great excitement of looking forward to going home at Halloween and Christmas and Easter. It was only in our latter years, when Philip Fogarty came in, that the long weekends became more of a feature. Whereas now the boys go home every either third or fourth weekend, depending on when dates fall and breaks fall. Easter moves each year. But it was it was daunting. And that stood to me, I think, seeing other boys coming in. So when I worked there for those years, it made me really just put on the antenna and reach out to those people, as well as putting the parents at ease, because they were making such a big decision. And it wasn't the same sort of hands-on in my time when I started. You came in, you were dropped off, they made the bed, and they were gone. It was pretty cold. It was pretty cold. Whereas now it's a lot more bells and whistles and good fun and good crack and keeping the kids busy and getting to integrate lots of icebreakers and all sorts of fun games, and that it's a different. They tried to create a little sense of home from home, is what we used to call it. I couldn't see John O'Keefe back in the early 70s talking about home from home. You survived. But yeah, each person, I'm very conscious it was different for each person who came through those doors, and not everybody was fortunate enough to have a happy time there. I did enjoy it. I absolutely enjoyed the 6 years, I must say, and no regrets, even at this stage, and having worked there for as long as I did. No regrets. It's been good to me, and I hope I've been good to it.